Welcome to the Business Blueprint, where entrepreneurs and business leaders learn how to work smarter, scale faster, and build better.
Blueprint. My name is Clay Craven. I am the marketing director over at OnSharp and joined as I am each week with Joe Sandine, who is our president CEO of OnSharp. And we're having another conversation about AI. As all business owners know, AI is kind of the constant theme of conversation these days, and has exploded into the business conversation over the past year or two especially, but it seems like each week there's new tools out there. And a lot of people's experience with that kind of stops at a ChatGPT, where they're giving it single tasks. They're asking it for help writing an email, maybe digesting a lot of information and giving summaries, things like that. But the real opportunity isn't just in content creation or small tasks. It's using AI to accelerate research, augment your processes, uncover insights, and building tools faster than you could before. So there's lots of different practical use cases of AI, but a lot of business owners, business leaders don't know where to start, and they feel a little bit stuck. So today we're going to talk about practical AI use cases that business owners can actually implement right now, and some different tools that we're going to mention to help them do that. Even if you don't have a developer or kind of a data background or mindset, there's a lot of these tools that can do quite a bit for you. So, Joe, to kick things off, how often are you actually using AI in just day-to-day work?
Man, all day, every day. Like I literally can't sleep at night because I want to get up and play with the tools. And I mean, it's everything for me from, because I have a technical background, so it's everything from writing code and building apps and software and like pushing myself from a techie perspective to high level vision strategy, having AI help me just get my head around ideas and that kind of stuff. So I use it kind of full stack, top to bottom, and I use it a lot. So it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming. I mean, there's really it's kind of a black hole. It could suck up all of your time. But I've always been that kind of person that just loves doing research and getting in and understanding. So I've found many uses for AI across the entire company, and I'm really enjoying it. You know, I benefit from having a tech background, so I can really geek out on a lot of this stuff too. So
yeah, I had multiple monitors in the past, gone to just a laptop. Desk was cleaner, liked it, but I finally pulled the trigger, got a second monitor up, and I just have some of these tools up all day long. Mm-hmm. I constantly use them throughout the day. Small tasks, larger things. You can kick it over to do some more complex research while you're working on something else, and then you come check back in. So it's really like having an assistant at a minimum. And then as we're going to get into the conversation here, you can have a whole team of essentially AI employees that can help you out. So
yeah, and just to jump in on that, I think that's the shift people need to make if you haven't made it yet, is shifting from thinking AI is just this thing that you can ask questions to, and understanding that it's a thing that can do stuff for you.
Right.
So like understanding, people hear about agents and they, we think about software and the things that we can build. AI can do a lot of real world application stuff, and it all just comes down to the tools and how you architect it and build it out. But I think that's the shift that the world is making very quickly now, is it's really moving into business use cases and actually bringing those to life. So
yeah, especially in our world and in for this show, talking to business owners, entrepreneurs, like you said, it's the shift in mindset from this is a tool that we have available to us to we are managing AI agents, AI employees, however you want to think about it, but managing these things to actually do a lot of the work. So a lot of opportunities out there. There's new tools all the time. The tools that you're familiar with are constantly putting out press releases and other information with new models, new integrations, all this stuff. How in the world can people keep up? What are some ways that you're learning personally about new tools, features, different ideas?
I think one of the easiest things to do is, subscribe to a newsletter. So there's a lot of good AI newsletters out there. I subscribe to one called Super Intelligence. But there's a lot of them. But I really rely on that one to email me every day and just give me stuff that I can read in my free time. So like, I'll get the email, and I obviously don't always have time to just look into stuff, at that moment. But I set aside time every week to whether it's at night or during the workday, but I just have to set aside time to review that, look through things. Everything's not applicable. There's a lot going on, so you probably don't have time to research everything, but you got to kind of pick and choose the things that look interesting to you or that you think could be applicable to your business. But I think that's one of the most obvious, easy things to do is just go out and find one of those highly used newsletters. There's a lot of good experts out there that are doing really cool stuff, so they can kind of disseminate the information to you, make your job easier.
Yeah, and and there's lots of good ones, like you said. The individual emails are going to be overwhelming. They're going to have 20 plus links and articles, but scan them.
Right.
What's relevant for you? What is mentioning some of the programs that you're using day in and day out? And like, oh, there's a new feature here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I don't read because they're just way too techy, or there's some implementation that doesn't really have a use case for me or interest me. And then there's some things that are just too general or that I feel like I already know about. But again, puts you in a position where you can pick and choose what you want to educate yourself on. But I think it's hard to just go out and try to remember to go search stuff and sift through the news on your own. I think it's nice when it can just all get aggregated down.
Yeah, let somebody else kind of digest that. And to be honest, they're probably using some sort of AI agent to kind of pay
harvest
attention,
it,
to listen, harvest,
mm-hmm.
condense it, and then probably put that email together. And that's fine. I mean, this is information that you want access to, and they can get it to you and deliver it in an easy to consume way. For my part, I'm a big podcast listener. I find that more convenient than kind of reading through things and do it while I'm driving or whatever else. So for the marketing side of things, I really like Marketing Against the Grain. It's a podcast from the folks over at HubSpot, and they are constantly testing things out. So if you're wanting to let somebody else be the guinea pig, let them try it out, and then give you, hey, we were able to do, here's the use case. We were able to do X with this thing. Then you can kind of pick on that and use it. So sometimes the video version is a little bit better. It's a lot of visual stuff going on.
Sure, yeah.
But otherwise, the Marketing Against the Grain podcast is really good. And then I've actually got a friend of mine from when we lived in Florida. His name is Matt Kenyon, and he's got a lot of YouTube videos out and does some good stuff on LinkedIn. But he's really done a great job of experimenting with these things and then putting out there in easy to understand ways, like, here is ways that I am actually using this. And he's good at kind of bursting hype bubbles. It's not just a bunch of fluff and nonsense, smoke and mirrors. It's really solid stuff. And I'm actually going to mention one of the practical tips that I got from him later on in the conversation here.
Yeah, you make a good point, though. I'm a visual learner, too. So I like to watch a lot of YouTube videos. And so, especially since I'm implementing a lot of things, I'm looking up stuff about, how to do this or do that using this tool. Yep. And there's a ton of great videos out there where people literally walk you through how to set up this or that AI agent, how to do this in this development tool, how to use ChatGPT to do that. So videos are super helpful too.
Yeah, and I would say too, just on top of, be listening, be watching, be subscribing to these certain folks out here that are doing this stuff. But then I think just to be curious, like if there's something that you wish you didn't have to do every day or every week that is monotonous, a lot of admin stuff, just poke around a little bit. Somebody's probably figured out a way to do that with some of these tools.
That's a great example, because you can even go into ChatGPT, for example, and say, hey, I was thinking about this idea. How would this work? How would you implement this? And it'll tell you, like, here's some options for how to do it. So there's been a lot of times where I've had business ideas and I'm like, I don't even know if that's possible or how I would do that. And I have AI help me kind of like brainstorm what that would look like.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to get into some really practical examples later on in the conversation here. But where do you feel the landscape is right now with businesses? It's a little bit anecdotal, but where are business leaders at currently in adopting AI beyond just, hey, I use ChatGPT, I ask it questions?
I think there's a small percentage of the population that's really aggressive with AI, and they're doing a lot of bleeding edge stuff. But I feel like a really healthy chunk of the business population is still kind of in pilot mode. Yeah. And then I kind of ask myself, well, why is that? I think it's that fear of like, there's so much information overload. Maybe there's a little bit of fear of like, I hear these horror stories out in the market and I don't want to be that horror story. So I think a lot of businesses are still kind of in treating AI kind of like experimentation mode, and they haven't really come up with a formal corporate strategy of what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. And I think that's unfortunate, because I think we're entering a time period now where the shift is really moving mainstream. And I think if you want to create your competitive advantage as a business, you really have to understand what you're going to do and start doing it for the sake of the business, not just giving your employees Copilot or ChatGPT and being like, use it however you want. I think you need to really think strategically, how do we make our business more efficient? How do we increase customer service? How do we grow revenue? How do we actually take some of these business challenges that we deal with every day and make AI work for us?
Yeah, again, trying to move from here's just a tool in the toolbox, like you said, use it where you think you can use it, to how are we going to pull this into the processes? How are we going to change our day-to-day activities based on the tools that we have available? The businesses that are figuring that out are the ones that are getting ahead, but a lot of people feel a little bit stuck. They know the opportunity is there. I was looking at some stats, and just kind of your average person walking the street, 84% of people aren't using AI at all. Okay, probably a higher percentage in the business world are using it lightly, but less than 9% of businesses in this poll are deploying some sort of AI agent. That's some of the stuff that we'll get into later. So there's still a lot of opportunity. You're not necessarily behind in terms of the general public, but now is the time to really seize on some of the things that we're going to get into. So on the other side of the break, we're going to give some practical examples of ways that you can utilize AI beyond just asking ChatGPT questions. Well, welcome back to the show. We are having another conversation around AI and all the tools that are available to business owners, entrepreneurs, and it's really impacted pretty much any and every industry. But Joe, we're in the software development industry over at OnSharp. So I think especially technical, tech industries are really impacted by all these AI tools. So what does that look like in the world of custom software development, which is what OnSharp's been doing for 26 years? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's changed the landscape dramatically. So just to kind of take a step back in history. So I started the business 26 years ago. I was a computer science grad. I knew how to code, so I spent many years of my life writing software and doing it, in the early years, one line at a time, had to write everything. And then the software world kind of matures and you can do more with less. And so libraries get built but you're still writing code, right? You still need to build everything, test it all, do it all yourself. The software development life cycle can feel, pretty heavy and kind of slow at times. And, to build complex software takes, big budgets and a lot of time and a lot of expertise. And with AI, it's just really altered the timeline component and it's really helped offload a lot of the, I'm going to say, just like redundant stuff that's kind of like well-defined in my opinion. Like how many developers have written the same code in this world to display data in a table and to do sorting and paging and to have a login structure and two-factor authentication. There's all these things that we've built, right, that we just keep doing over and over and over again. And so AI has really, what's cool is it's worked its way into the development environment. So just to give an example, there is software that we use on the computer. I use a program called Cursor that is like my development environment. So I can get into the code, I can write code, I can see the code and everything. But what's cool now is it has, just to make a simple example, I've got almost like a ChatGPT on the right-hand side. So if I want to add a feature to a piece of software or I start from scratch and I want to build something, I can literally have a conversation in my development environment with AI and I can tell it what I want to build. And what's really cool is I can either do it in the moment and as I tell it stuff, it just writes the code and implements it, or I can be in what's called plan mode. So if I want to really kind of like plan out a bigger feature or I'm starting a project and I want to kind of get all the requirements figured out, I start off in plan mode, so then it doesn't do anything yet until I say, okay, let's go build this thing out. But I can spend, I don't care if it's 3 minutes or 30 minutes or 4 hours having a conversation and building out the plan for what I want to build. And then I can view the plan, I can see all the assumptions. It writes a very detailed kind of like technical specification. And then I literally, if I'm ready to go, I just hit build, and then it breaks that plan down into 9 steps, 27 steps, tasks, whatever it is, it breaks it down essentially into a project, and it just starts going to town and it starts building it out. So in the world of software development, major change, because we can move a lot faster than we used to. We can build a lot more complicated stuff. And there's just a lot of time improvements. I was telling you earlier before we got here, even things like documenting my code, the AI can help write the documentation. Or when I check in versions of code, it can write the description that goes into our code repository of what was changed. And like, it just saves so much time in the process to where we can just build so much more for the same budget that our clients have had in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, if you know just a little bit about code, there's different languages. There's Python and C Sharp, but now I mean more and more English is going to be the coding language because
Yeah,
when you're
great point.
when you're in Cursor, and I'm not technical, so Joe's showing me stuff, and I understand about 8% of it. But if it's for example, we were having it help with website development and getting some pages ready, and you can literally just type in there, make it blue. Like you don't have to change hexadecimal value to you don't have to do that. You don't have to know that. You could literally say, I don't like that. It looks weird. Try again.
Yeah, and you can be very specific, or you can be very vague. So like you could say, "Man, that hero spot's ugly." Like, use your own judgment, make it better. Or what's really cool, like in Cursor, I can take screenshots of things and I can say, "Oh, hey, here, make it look like this." Or I could even screenshot an error message, or I could you can screenshot, you can paste in content. So like, if there's something I'm debugging, I can paste in the text of the error message. But the cool thing, you just boss it around. That's why I say all the time, like I'm having a great time because I'm just bossing I feel like I'm just bossing people around, telling them what to build for me. And like I almost can't move fast enough.
Yeah.
Cause like I'll be in the middle of literally it's in the middle of implementing something that I just told to do. And I'm already writing the next prompt of like the next thing I thought of. And so like the second it gets done, I'm like, bam, I feed it the next prompt.
Yeah.
And it's gotten so good. So another point that I want to make is a lot of people, when it comes to AI stuff, they try something once, it sucks because it was early or it wasn't fleshed out. They write it off like, oh, this tool's terrible, and then they never come back and revisit it. If I would have done that with Cursor, for example, a year ago, I wouldn't be using it today. So like when Cursor first came out, it was okay, but it wasn't great. A lot of bugs. A lot of times I would get stuck in these infinite loops of trying to solve a error message forever. And it wasn't that great. But then month over month over month, it got better and better and better. And the new language models came out and they kept making updates to Cursor. Now it's to a point where 9 times out of 10, when I have it do stuff, it nails it first time, no errors, no issues. It's gotten to where I can just move really fast and it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I have a joke too. It's an employee whose feelings you can never hurt. Like, because you get 50 times you say, no, not like that. Not like that. I don't want it like that. Change this, make this better. Whereas, when you're interacting with people, eventually you're just like, it's good enough because I don't want to be constantly negative.
And for me, because I was a developer, I have an engineer's mindset. I understand things. I can be really effective building software now because I don't have to remember the syntax.
Right.
I don't have to like memorize all the commands. Like I just let AI just knows all that.
Yeah.
But I still have a good engineering brain. I've always been good with databases and data structures and that kind of stuff. If you're the wrong captain of the ship, I mean, I'm sure you can run it into an iceberg pretty fast.
Right.
So I don't think like AI coding is for everyone. So I don't think every business should try to do it on their own.
Exactly.
But I think if you're equipped properly and you have a good engineer's mindset, I just don't think you need to know all the syntax anymore. You can move really quickly just, telling AI what you want to build.
Yeah, and I think that's a mistake some people do make is they think, oh, these AI tools exist and I can just do whatever. It is going to be exponentially more powerful and helpful if you have that background. So there's a lot of conversations. Is this replacing people? No, if you've got the expertise in coding, in marketing, and then you have these tools available to you, it just makes you that much more productive and more powerful. Like if they came out with a better backhoe and they gave it to me, I'm not going to be able to do great things with this piece of heavy machinery, whereas someone who is skilled in other heavy machinery can do a lot of good with it. I mean, it might be a poor analogy, but the point is, like, it's not magic, and it is limited. Even with Cursor, for example, you can do a lot more with it a lot faster than I can because you've got that coding background.
That's just my expertise.
Right.
And I still give it a lot of guidance on the tech stack I want to use, how I'm going to do deployment. Like there's still a lot of techie things that I tell it what to do, and I have to make sure it's doing it the right way. But again, I'm saving a ton of time because I don't have to sit there and write all the code I used to have to write.
Yeah. So this specific tool that we're encouraging people to potentially check out is called Cursor. What are some ways that businesses can benefit from a tool like this?
Yeah, so like in OnSharp, we're doing everything from, the projects that we do both internally and for our clients. We are using Cursor, and we are also using the Microsoft stack. I mean, Cursor's not the only tool. There's Claude Code, there's Visual Studio, there's many options. but we're using it to build software, to build features. We're using it to write test cases and do some of the testing process for us automatically. One interesting use case is it's really helped us on the prototyping side. So when we work with a business and we're helping them solve a business problem, the first phase we go through is called discovery. So we kind of we got to sit down, understand the business problem, architect it out. How are we going to solve this thing? And normally in that process, we would show them mock-ups of like, okay, here's what the system that we're going to build is going to look like. And a designer would like use a visual design tool and like spend a good amount of time designing static images, or like the market had matured, or it was like, I'm trying to think what that tool was, where you could kind of have click around stuff, but you were still clicking between images. We just made like almost like hotspots, or, oh, if you click on this button, it'll take you to the next static screen. Well, now we kind of just skip right into, as we go through discovery, we just start building the prototype from day one. So we just start building out the front end of it so that the client, as we have meetings, they can like see this thing come to life. Even if all the back end plumbing's not there, they feel like they have a true understanding of like, okay, this is what it's going to be like to use this software. Yeah, that feels right. So it's been really, really impactful. It's almost like if you were going to build a house, they could show you architectural drawings, but if they can take you through a 3D simulation and walk you through the house, you just get such a better feeling, right, of like what it's going to be like to live in that house.
Yeah.
So AI has allowed us to really accelerate that process and make the client feel much happier earlier in the process.
Yeah, so Cursor, one of those powerful tools that we're talking about for practical examples of how you can use AI. On the other side of the break, we're going to give some marketing examples and tools that we recommend as well.
All right, welcome back. This is Joe with Clay Kraby, my marketing director at OnSharp. I heard on the break Fargo's doing a competition, Name a Garbage Truck, and Trashosaurus Rex is one of the ideas. That's clearly going to get my vote. I thought that was pretty cute. All right, so we just talked about, and I just over-geeked out on AI development tools, and I apologize for sucking up so much time that you didn't get to ask me all the questions you want to ask. But one comment I want to make before we kind of close that off is, I just think it's so interesting. I feel like custom software used to be kind of the luxury of giants, like only big companies could afford to build their own custom systems. And what I love about AI is it's really democratized that process to where the small guys can really afford to now differentiate. So I think if you're a small business and you've really been looking for that opportunity to leapfrog your competition, I think now's the time to be looking into, is custom software something that can really give us an edge? So
give us a call on onsharp.com.
So now let's move into Clay's world. So let's talk marketing a little bit. So obviously we do a lot of research to figure out what our positioning is and how we talk and what our competitors are doing. And I know you use AI a lot in your competitive research. So Clay, let's just kind of kick off generally. What are some of the ways that you're using AI every week in the marketing world to do that research and understand how to position the business?
Yeah, and as we mentioned in the previous episode, we've kind of had this pivot that we're doing over at OnSharp. We're still doing our custom software, but we also have this employee portal product, a SaaS product that HR teams can use to help manage their employees, time off, PTO, benefits, all that stuff. So we had a learning curve. This is a newer product for us, though we've built custom ones in the past. We're really trying to get pretty educated in this area, and so we had to do a lot of research, and AI has been extremely helpful in that. The main thing that I want to say from a practical standpoint for those listening, if they're trying to get insight on their competitors, is you can't just go to ChatGPT or Claude and just start asking it questions. You have to feed it the right information. So find your competitors' websites, download some of their brochure type materials, find some video overviews. You need to feed it this information, and then you start to ask it more analysis type questions of, what is the feature set? What are the gaps? How does it compare to, your own product if you upload that information or another competitor's product? You're really trying to figure out an overview of what this competing product offering service company is like. One of the best things I think that we did in this is we started to locate Reddit threads, software review sites where you got maybe, depending on the size of the company, you might have hundreds of reviews. Now, it's very, very difficult for a marketer, even somebody, multiple team members on a marketing team, to go through that, to digest it, to filter out people that just had a bad experience and are upset, and this is all they do is leave bad reviews versus concrete, applicable information. So being able to locate those articles, blog posts, comment sections, whatever, feed that into a tool, and then say, okay, give me the patterns, give me the themes. Now we can take that information and realize, oh wow, these existing tools, they're really lacking in this particular integration, particular feature set, or you might get ammunition for, hey, people like, competitor whatever, but they really are complaining about getting nickeled and dimed, and every year the price goes up. Well, that's just ammunition for the marketer to have these conversations proactively and speak to people that might be willing to switch.
So you do all this research. How far do you push it? Like, you start asking, you feed it some data, it gives you some data back, and it tells you something. Like, how deep in the weeds do you get? How far, because ultimately you want to take that to a strategy that you want to implement, right? So like walk us through how you kind of go from some of that initial research to like, because I think I've found too, and maybe this is just a second question that you can answer, but like sometimes it's over confirmatory to like my feelings or my wants and my desires, and it kind of like just agrees with me on every possible idea. And like, how do you work around that too?
Yeah, I think everybody should print off the old Ronald Reagan quote of trust but verify and have it on their desk next to whatever screen they've got AI on. It can be confidently wrong. And so we considered being probably, at best 75% done, probably closer to 60% done when we get all this output. And then we're taking that and we're looking over, okay, is this accurate? Does this seem to match the way that this competitor is positioning themselves? Looking over your features pages. This is obviously a lot of software heavy examples, but the point is that you want to trust but verify. Let this help you to kind of really dig through a lot of that data, present you information that then you can take and make sure is accurate, and then you digest that, utilize that in what comes out of your marketing materials.
Yeah, and ultimately it's telling you what it's telling you based on the information that it can find, right? So I think one of the risks in competitor research is maybe the true story is not fully out there.
Right.
And especially in the world of software. So like we're building a tool, and a lot of these competitors have tools, and let's just say they're gated by the fact that you have to log in to actually experience the tool.
Yep.
So yes, it might make you think that, competitor A doesn't have this feature, or they do, but like, how well is it implemented? Or, that you've still got to marry your own legwork and homework, and there's still more to do, but it can obviously save you a ton of time and get you further down the road than you would have been if you didn't have AI at your disposal. Right?
And that's why my biggest practical tip on that too, again, is if you're only digesting the other company's marketing materials, of course it's going to be polished. Of course it's going to be what they're going to present. Of course it's going to have gaps. If you're starting to get into real world customer reviews, I think that's a gold mine, because you can get a lot more real information from that's not polished, that didn't get approved by some marketing team, as long as you can also discount that, because there's always people that just nothing's ever good enough. So you can't take one bad review and then make a marketing campaign out of it, but you can take those as data points that you can utilize.
So when you're doing competitor research, how do you understand, because I found that it doesn't always recommend everyone, and I have to say, oh, well, isn't this company a competitor too? How do you understand why does AI recommend certain competitors and then other ones it doesn't? How do you get down into the brain?
Yeah, these have been the biggest shifts from a marketing standpoint, is understanding that in the olden days, when we get in our covered wagons and pull up Google and look for a company, we would search, and then we would ourselves kind of go through those results. And we kind of started to get a sense and an idea of why this website was ranked over another. And so the SEO grows out of that. And there's different things that you can do. And then it ends up being, feeling like a big mystery. Is like, why when I ask ChatGPT, hey, who is the best, Chinese restaurant, plumber, software developer in this region, why are some of these folks showing up and I'm not? And I think that's a big part of that competitor research. And that's the biggest question I think people have a lot of the times, and what can they do proactively?
Everyone. Like when I look on LinkedIn, I feel like it's everyone's trying to figure out, like, how do I get AI to recommend me? How do I get what's the acronym they use for AI SEO essentially?
Right.
like everyone's trying to figure out like, how do I do SEO, but for AI?
Right. Yeah. And there's a handful of ones and kind of different branded ones that HubSpot has. And I think that's the big question. And again, I mentioned earlier that Matt Kenyon has some really helpful content out there. The most practical thing I've seen is the tip that I would encourage people to do is open up ChatGPT in like an incognito browser or window, or when you're not logged in, because again, it is gonna tell you what you want to hear. It's gonna butter you up. It's gonna do all these things, and it's also gonna feed off of your previous prompts and questions. So if you can get a clean slate and then ask it something that your potential customer might ask, that you hope to show up for those searches in that environment within ChatGPT or wherever else. And then now it's actually shifted to where it's showing its sources. So let's say that we did a search for, who's the best custom software developer, and it's pulling up this information. We can click the sources tab. A new pane's going to open up, and it's going to show you why it listed those particular companies. And it's going to list Reddit threads and articles and maybe videos. And that's the tip right here. Do those searches for your business. Think through 5, 10 types of queries that you think a potential customer might ask, that you say, I want to be in that answer. Run those yourself, open up that sources tab, and then start to see what's out there. Is it a top 10 list? Is it a video? Is it a Reddit thread? Is it coming from like a software review site or other type review sites that's applicable to your industry? And then as a marketer, you start thinking, okay, can I get on these pages? If it's a roundup article of all these things that are offered in my city, my region, or whatever else, can I reach out to the person that put this article together and maybe get listed? Is there some outdated information on that article that I could replace one of the people that are included on this? Is it a review site of some kind? Do I have a profile on that site? What do I need to do? A lot of times you're not going to be able to do that. It's going to be some mega company that obviously has really good impact in terms of both SEO and then showing up in AI searches and whatever else. Then you can take through and, okay, what is this content like? Clearly the LLM, the learning language model, the language learning model, it saw this as good information to gobble up and spit back out. What can I do on my end to maybe recreate that on my own blog, YouTube channel, social media, whatever else, because that's the type of searches that it found relevant.
So as much as AI has changed the world, in all reality, not much has changed. You need to have authority. You need to know what you're talking about, and you just need to get your message out there. So like nothing really can replace, in my opinion, just the fact that, do you know what you're talking about? And are you getting that out there? And are you answering the questions? And are you being a good resource? I think if you just do those principles right, you're going to get the results you're looking for. All right, well, it's time for another break. When we come back, everyone's heard of ChatGPT and Claude and Copilot, and I think a lot of people don't totally understand which tool is the one they should be using. So we're going to talk a little bit about those tools and how to make those decisions when we come back. Welcome back. We are talking AI again today, our second episode on AI, because it doesn't change very often, does it, Clay? It's been, a couple months, and I feel like the whole world's a whole new place with a whole new set of tools. So our last segment here, when AI first was introduced to the masses, it was ChatGPT, right? It was the one, the only, it was the monopoly. And then out of nowhere came other tools like Claude, and now everyone's hearing about Claude Cowork. And then obviously Microsoft has Copilot. And so I think a lot of people hear about these tools and they don't necessarily understand what's the difference between them, which one would I pick, why would I pick it. So I kind of want to get into that a little bit and have you give us some recommendations, Clay, on just how do people navigate that landscape of picking which one of these tools they should pick, because they all come with subscriptions. I mean, I don't recommend using the free one because it doesn't protect what you tell it. So you need to be on paid versions of these tools, but do you use them all? Do you pick one? How much should you spend? I just think there's a lot of unanswered questions on that, and I think we could provide some insight. So just give me a general idea. How do people make this decision between the three?
Yeah,
not that there's only three. There's more than this too.
Yeah, there's lots out there, and I think the main tip would be just to try them. I mean, you're going to have some sunk costs in this, and you need to be willing to throw a $20 a month subscription out for a couple months to give you the opportunity to test some out. Because like everybody else, this whole world opened up to me through ChatGPT. But as you said, there's Gemini and there's Perplexity and there's dozens of others.
Yep.
Can't try them all. Your time is limited, your budget's limited, but just try to find a couple. At the start of the show, we talked about different folks that we're hearing from, listening to newsletters. Who are they using? Who are they talking about? So Marketing Against the Grain starts talking about Claude all the time. I hadn't used Claude, and now I prefer it for a great majority of what I do as a marketer. ChatGPT is great for general purpose. It can generate images, quick tasks. I like it for that, but I actually use both, and probably more so Claude now, because it's better at deep analysis. The writing is better. It feels more natural. It's better at research.
Is that ultimately because Claude's LLM is better at that?
Yeah, I think it's the model is better at that. So if I were to put in a prompt and try to get an end product out of something in ChatGPT, when it's done, honestly, most of the time I'd say it's 50% of the way there.
Mm-hmm.
With Claude, a lot of times I'm 80% of the way there.
Well, and I want to make an analogy quick, so just so people understand. So like when you use ChatGPT, you're using ChatGPT's LLMs. When you use Claude, you're using Anthropic's. But if you're using some third-party tool, or like when I'm using Cursor to do development, I can pick my LLMs.
Yeah.
So there's an extra level of flexibility, like when I'm doing my development environment, or when you're using other third-party software tools that are embedding all of these LLMs into it, and then either giving you the choice to pick the one you want to use, or they're just doing some magic behind the scenes to figure out the right one to use for the right situation. So people need to understand that when you're using some of these specific tools like ChatGPT and Claude Code and Copilot, and I think Copilot just uses Claude under the hood, but you are using their specific LLM versus there's other situations where you can kind of pick and choose your path.
Yeah, and these things can be very different, and it's different for your own use cases. Like I said, there's a lot of marketers that gravitate towards Claude for various reasons, and there might be others that it really is not a good fit for. So I think the main tip here, the practical advice would be you need to test these things out. When you're hearing the same AI tool being mentioned in some of these folks that you might be listening to, reading on LinkedIn, wherever else, it's applicable to your scenario and situation. Be willing to throw a couple bucks down and test that tool out and put it through its paces. And honestly, what I do probably 3 times a day at least is I'll run the same prompt through ChatGPT and through Claude, because I'm still in the testing mode and seeing how they handle it. But it's a little bit of that verification too, because now you have 2 different AI models that are going to help you see if this is good info.
Yeah, and another important evolution is they now have tools and skills. So like when I'm using ChatGPT, I can connect it to my HubSpot CRM, or I can connect it to Dropbox or local file storage, or like you can give it more context of specific information of yours, and then you can have a conversation, or you can have it do work for you, like generate a spreadsheet or do an analysis. And all the tools can do that. And they all do it in slightly different ways and probably produce slightly different results. So again, I think you're right. You have to experiment. I don't think there's much harm. So let's just say you're going to spend $20 a month across 3 tools. We'll spend the $60 a month for a while and like get to know them all.
Yep.
And then maybe you decide you only need one, or maybe you decide you want a couple of them. And how many subscriptions do we pay for in our personal lives that are overlapping, like
you get
TV
Netflix, you got
versus
Disney
Netflix?
Plus,
right. So there's nothing wrong with having multiple
Yep.
tools that have some overlap.
Yep, exactly. And that's a pretty good analogy, because there's different reasons to have those things. And there's a lot of more specialized tools out there.
Yeah,
too.
so let's spend a few minutes talking about what else exists outside of those that are more specialized, like image, video, different things like that.
Yeah, and I know we're kind of getting to the end of the time here, but one thing that I would throw out there is a tool called 11 Labs. And this is just is not in the same realm as a ChatGPT or just a regular Claude interface where you're just prompts asking questions. It's really a place for creating materials. They can do AI voice narration. It can do AI videos, image generation, a lot of really cool stuff. So whatever kind of workflow that you typically have, video editing, video production, look for tools out there that can really make that a lot easier for you.
Yeah, I think that's there's so many other specialty tools that are out there that I think a lot of people don't realize that are going to solve some really interesting business use cases. So
yeah. So as far as the practical tip as we close this segment out is you have to be willing to try out things. Don't get stuck in a rut. If something's not working great for you, don't give up on the AI tool being able to be a help in that area. Try out some of these other options and see what you have. So That's it for this episode of the Business Blueprint Show. As always, you can head to businessblueprintshow.com to ask us a question and check out additional resources related to this conversation. So we'll see you next time for the next episode of the Business Blueprint.